Probe developments and the president's backing in new legislation creating additional sanctions, and tonight additionally proposing reforms in our immigration system. We are joined by Senator David Perdue. He's the member of the Budget, Foreign Relations, and Judiciary Committees, a busy man to say the very least. Senator, great to have you with us, and congratulations on what is a landmark piece of legislation that promises to be seminal in the history of immigration in this country.
Well, thank you, Lou. We think it is. The president had it as a pivotal issue in the campaign. It's one of the reasons he got elected. This was the only candidate on the Republican side and the Democratic side that was listening to Americans, and the Americans were speaking very loudly that this was an issue that they wanted people to deal with. Over 60% of Americans believe we need to have a merit-based immigration system, and almost 3/4 believe it should be limited to the worker and their immediate family.
And with that rationality that you're bringing, trying to bring through this legislation to our immigration system, this, you mentioned the voter who put President Trump in office. The primary issues for whom were immigration, the economy, terrorism, and reforming our immigration system, which requires securing the border as well. I mean, you're cutting across all of those important interests to the majority of Americans, the vast majority of Americans who want a secure and prosperous America.
Well, there's no doubt. This is further evidence, though, that this president is doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Right.
You know, illegal crossings of our southern border are down over 50% right now. We're moving on this legislation, which is focused on legal immigration, which is what he talked about. And what we've got to do is fix this broken system, Lou. I mean, you talk about it on this show. Only 1 of 15 immigrants that come into our country today come in with skills, and over half of the immigrant households in America today are in our welfare system. So this is not the American dream for these people. We believe there's a better way. We did a very measured approach here, looked at Canada and Australia's programs that have worked for decades, and come up with this points-based, merit-based immigration system that's been proven to work.
Well, a merit-based immigration system that's based as well on the needs, the manpower needs of this country, is just too sensible for words. It's hard to believe that this is actually moving through the Senate of the United States. The president, as you said, this is one of his promises. It is also another that he is keeping. It is also going to be a very difficult legislative path forward. To get 60 votes in the Senate, you would require at least 8 Democrats, perhaps more, given some of the history of, for example, Senator McCain, who allied himself with Senator Ted Kennedy to create so-called comprehensive immigration reform, which was simply amnesty. How do you push forward? How do you get passage in the Senate?
Well, the good news is that we're modeling this after the state of Canada, which is not exactly not the biggest bastion of conservatism. and the other thing, Lou, is that this was an idea back in the 90s that they looked at in the Commission of Immigration then, led by Barbara Jordan in Texas, and they looked at this and said, you know, we need to look at modeling the immigration system in America after that in Canada. So I don't see this as a partisan issue. When you get in and look at what we're doing, it actually is more fair than our current system. We get away from the country caps that are in this one now, and we move to just simply a merit base. If anybody around the world can come in and qualify, we want to welcome them with open arms.
And the idea that we are bringing in people who have skills, who are educated, and putting really acknowledging the value of American citizenship, rather than listening to most of whom are on the left, saying, "Well, this is cross our border. It doesn't matter. It's not about sovereignty. It's about a warm and fuzzy feeling." It is extraordinary what the left has done, along with cooperation from the far right, who are basically seeking cheap labor. It is time for that particular alliance to be broken up.
Well, that's the reason we focused on legal immigration only. We're not dealing with the temporary work visas now, and that's been the problem with all of these efforts to have comprehensive immigration reform. They just don't work. So we're taking this one step at a time. It's a measured approach. We think we can get bipartisan support. It's the right thing to do. We focus on education, age, whether they've got a job or not, whether they are investing, whether they've had accomplishments in their career, and also whether they speak English or not. It's a 100-point based system, and it's been proven to work over decades in Canada and Australia. So we're very optimistic that we'll be able to get a hearing on this eventually and hopefully move this through the Senate.
And particularly with the president's leadership and support, you certainly should be able to move that forward. Has Senator McConnell called you to wish you congratulations and Godspeed?
I talked to him today. We've talked to him repeatedly about this as we were working on it. We've met with Chairman Grassley of our Judiciary Committee. There are people in the House. Chairman Goodlatte is working on this in their Judiciary Committee. And so we're going to have a bill in the House. This bill is already in the Senate. We're going to have an active and open debate by this. And other people say, well, David, you've got a lot of things on the agenda. You've got the budget, you've got the debt ceiling, you've got tax to deal with. Can you deal with more than one thing at a time? You know, the president's a business guy. He comes from a world where if you don't do that, you don't survive. And I do too. So this is what we're going to try to do the balance of the year.
Senator, you and I both recall a time when the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives could work on far more than one thing at a time. It's been so long since one thing has gotten done, though, in either house, that it'll be quite an exploration this time. We wish I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Lou. Good news is today, as a matter of fact, give just a little bit of good news here.
I'll take it.
We actually confirmed more people for this president today than we have all of this year prior to today. How about that?
Well, I will join in the applause for your efforts and for getting more done, and we thank you for that. We know it hasn't been an easy task getting that resolved in the Senate. Senator David Perdue, we congratulate you as well on the legislation, and good luck.
Thank you, Lou.
Good to have you with us. We're awaiting the president's rally coming up in Huntington, West Virginia. We'll be bringing him to you as soon as he